Hello everyone, this is Reverend Dr. and tonight we're going to study paper 109 of the Urantia Book, Relation of Adjusters to Universe Creators. And that starts on page 1195, book 1, in the original book, or that's paper 10901. So we'll start at the right place. And we say a little prayer and we'll get started. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight that we might study this revelation. Pray that you open our hearts and our minds that we might learn something tonight and be able to share it with others. And we pray that this will enlighten us a little bit about your relationship to us as thought adjusters, and that we might serve you better than you will. We thank you and we give you good praise in your son Jesus' name. Amen. Paper 109, Relation of Adjusters to Universe Creatures. The thought adjusters are the children of the universe career, and indeed virgin adjusters must gain experience while mortal creatures grow and develop. As the personality of the human child expands for the struggles of the evolutionary existence, so does the adjuster wax great in the rehearsals of the next stage of ascending life. As the child acquires adaptive versatility for his adult activities through the social and play life of early childhood, so does the indwelling adjuster achieve skill for the next stage of cosmic life by virtue of the preliminary mortal planning and rehearsing of those activities which have to do with the Urantia career. Human existence constitutes a period of practice which is effectively utilized by the adjuster in preparing for the increased responsibilities and the greater opportunities of a future life, but the adjuster's efforts while living within you are not so much concerned with the affairs of temporal life and the planetary existence. Today the thought adjusters are, as it were, rehearsing the realities of the universe career and the evolving minds of human beings. And what does all this mean? That means that the adjuster basically is rehearsing things in our life, preparing us having to do with the future in our Urantia career. And these adjusters gain experience in doing that with us, and the virgin adjusters gain experience in doing this in creatures of non-survival value. In other words, creatures that probably will not survive, or creatures that are not capable of fusing with the thought adjuster, but will later on fuse with a fragment of the universal sun or spirit one. Okay, so basically the adjuster, as far as the adjuster goes, this life that we live now is just a rehearsal for what's to come in the future, which is kind of interesting. Let's go on to the first section, the development of the adjusters. Millie, are you out there? Is she there? Is she talking? Can we hear her?
No, we can't hear you.
No? Is she talking? I'm not sure these are on. Millie, can you hear me? Alright, I barely hear. Alright, let me make sure this is plugged in here. It might be a power issue here with our speakers. I think I found the problem. Hang on, Millie. There we go.
Volume, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Am I echoing? No.
Okay,
She
I
is-
could, I had to put my headphones on because I couldn't understand you. Your voice goes up and down, and you're sitting where you sit. But when you were working on fixing the problem, I could hear you perfectly. Your voice was loud and clear.
Yeah, it's probably how the microphone is up or down. Let me see if I can adjust that too, real quick. Let's see. Sorry, y'all, I don't. Oops.
It's just us tonight?
Yes, Rodney is going to be joining us about 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know where Stephen is tonight. I haven't heard from him, so he may have forgotten and don't have any way of reminding me. So. Okay, can you hear me a little better, Milton?
Yes.
Okay.
Number one, development of adjusters. There must be a comprehensive and elaborate plan for the training and development of virgin adjusters before they are sent forth from Divinington, but we really do not know very much about it. There undoubtedly also exists an extensive system for training adjusters of indwelling experience before they embark on a new mission of floral association, but again, we do not actually know.
So he's speculating that that the adjusters are retrained when they come back from inhabiting one being, and they go back to Divinington before they go out to another one. There's a retraining of the adjusters, and these are the virgin adjusters that are gaining experience with beings that either decline survival or are not capable of fusing with the adjusters.
Question.
Yes.
When does an adjuster leave his being?
Upon death, Billy. Soon as
When the human dies?
when the human dies, yeah, as soon as the human dies.
Then the adjuster has no more work with him.
That's right.
Okay.
When he dies, he goes on. And this can, I don't know if you remember a few weeks ago, we talked about there's 3 types of death too. They can leave earlier than actual physical death. They can leave when you have a mindal death. In other words, if the human brain is damaged and there's no mind anymore, then they can leave early if that happens also. So, all right. And one other thing is if there's a spiritual death. In other words, if someone totally rejects the plan of God and embraces evil, makes a final decision to reject God, they can also leave at that point too. That's considered a spiritual death.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's go on. Diane, did you take the next one?
I've been told by personalized adjusters that every time I monitor whoever fails is vital. When the adjuster returns to Divinington, an extended course of training is engaged in. This additional training is made possible by the experience of having indwelt a human being, and it is always imparted before the adjuster is to the evolution.
Before it is always imparted, before the adjuster is remanded
To the evolutionary rules. Thank you.
Right. Okay, so if a mortal or a person fails to survive, okay, then that's when especially the virgin adjusters go back to Divinington for more training before they impart to be instilled in another being, another human.
Well, do you have your radio on or something?
Oh, I don't have the radio. Where that's coming from. It's not Millie either? Oh, okay. Actual living experience has no cosmic substitute. The perfection of divinity of a newly formed thought adjuster does not in any manner endow this mystery model with experience administrative ability. Experience is inseparable from a living experience. existence. It is the one thing which no amount of divine endowment can absolve you from the necessity of securing by actual living. Therefore, in common with all living beings and functioning within the present sphere, the supreme thought adjusters must acquire experience, though they evolve from the lower inexperienced to the higher, more experienced groups. So even though they start out with the experience of a lower level type of being and go through an entire life with a lower level type of being that cannot survive, they still have to go through the experience of being with us. That experience of being with another type of being is invaluable to them. And many adjusters go through several types of beings before they move on to us. I'm in a meeting, I'll have to call you back. Okay, so they go from the lower type of experiences to a more higher and higher experience type of group until they actually stop with someone who is fusible with them. Right?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Getting cheating the slides tonight. Okay. Billy, would you take the next one, please?
Adjusters pass through a definite developmental career in the mortal mind. They achieve a reality of attainment which is eternally theirs. They progressively acquire adjuster skills and ability as a result of any and all contacts with material races, regardless of the survival or non-survival of their particular mortal subjects. They are also equal partners of the human mind in fostering the evolution of the immortal soul of survival capacity.
So they're partners with us in developing the soul, which we will take up when we get to the first dimension worlds, right? Amen.
The first stage of adjuster evolution is attaining fusion with the surviving soul of the mortal being. Thus, while you are in nature evolving inward and upward from man to God, the adjusters are in nature evolving outward and downward from God to man. And so will the final product of this union of divinity and humanity eternally be the Son of Man and the Son of God.
Remember when Jesus was constantly referring to himself as the Son of Man and the Son of God? Because he was part human and part divinity, right? Because he was already a son of God, and he became a son of man by becoming incarnate into this world. Now, the adjusters come down to us, and we come from a mortal existence. So we have the divinity coming down and us going up. So that's that son of man and son of God. Okay. The first stage of adjuster evolution is attained in fusion with the surviving soul of a mortal being. Is that what you just read?
Yes. She just read that.
Sorry, I went backwards here. Okay.
2. Self-acting adjusters.
Right. 2. Self-acting adjusters. You've been informed of the classification of adjusters in relation to experience: virgin, advanced, and supreme. You should also recognize a certain functional classification. The self-acting adjusters. A self-acting adjuster is one who. Next we have a picture. Some interesting picture. All right. This is a long one, Melly. I'll leave this one up to you. Melly?
Okay. The self-acting adjuster has had certain requisite experience in the evolving life of a real creature, either as a temporary indweller on a type of world where adjusters are only loaned to mortal subjects, or on an actual fusion planet where the human failed of survival. Such a monitor is either an advanced or supreme adjuster. He has acquired a balance of spiritual power in a human who has made the third psychic circle and has had assigned to him a personal seraphic guardian. He has a subject who has made the supreme decision, has entered into a solemn and sincere betrothal with the adjuster. The adjuster looks beforehand to the time of actual fusion and reckons the union as an event of fact. Number 4, he has a subject who has been mustered into one of the reserve corps of destiny on an evolutionary world of mortal ascension. 5, at some time during human sleep, has been temporarily detached from the mind of mortal incarceration to perform some exploit of liaison, contact, re-registration, or other extra-human service associated with the spiritual administration of the world of assignment. And 6, he has served in a time of crisis in the experience of some human being who was the material complement of a spiritual personality entrusted with the enactment of some cosmic achievement essential to the spiritual economy of the planet.
So all these things, or any one of these things, can be a reason for an adjuster to be a self-acting adjuster, okay? And that the self-acting adjuster may, at periods of time, detach himself from his subject during his sleep or when he's not being used to take on some job of the planet, or et cetera, et cetera. Now, the self-acting adjuster is the type of adjuster that was used during the revelation of these papers. So that's why this is very important for us to understand. That was a self-acting adjuster that communicated with the revelators during this period of time. Also, anyone who's reached the third psychic circle, right, many times has a self-acting adjuster. Or anytime someone makes a solemn decision that they are betrothed to the adjuster himself. And as far as the adjuster is concerned, that it is a fact. Okay. The other thing is if a subject has been mustered into the reserve corps of destiny for a specific duty on this planet. Now, people that are mustered into these reserve corps of destiny do not know that they've been thus mustered into these corps, but they're rehearsed for specific tasks in case of a planetary emergency. And they may go through their whole life and never know that they're part of the reserve corps. Y'all can read the rest of it. Pretty self-explanatory. Steve?
Yeah.
Hey, Steve.
What's the third psychic circle?
The third psychic circle is the point when you have progressed spiritually, where you are assigned a personal seraphic guardian, Stephen. And up to that point, you're assigned group guardians. In other words, there's a guardian over a group of individuals, usually 2 seraphim and 2 cherubim. But when you get to the third psychic circle, in other words, where you advance spiritually and accepted the goal of eternity, which is the fusion of the adjuster, or doing the will of God, then you've reached the third psychic circle. And at that point, the self-acting adjuster can do much more for you, because you have a full-time staff of 2 seraphim and 2 cherubim. And so the work of the adjuster is much more effective after that period of time, because they work in liaison with the guardian angels. Right?
Okay, so now we know the goal, huh?
Yeah, we know the goal. We're on slide number section 2, slide number 8. Do you want to take that one, Stephen? No?
Okay. Self-acting adjusters, they possess mark-free will in all matters not involving the human. Personalities of their immediate indwelling, as is indicated by their numerous exploits, both within and without the moral subjects of attachment. The adjusters participate in numerous activities of the realm. More frequently, they function as undetected indwellers of the earthly tabernacles of their own choosing.
Okay, so these self-acting adjusters can act on their own will rather than just the will of the individual they're entrusted with, right? So they can do these functions using their own will to do something. That includes communication with other adjusters within our seventh super universe and the other super universe, apparently. So they still act for the good of the universe. All right, Diane, would you take the next one?
Undoubtedly, these higher and more experienced types of adjusters can communicate with those in other realms. But while self-acting adjusters do thus intercommunicate, they do so only on the levels of their mutual work and for the purpose of preserving custodial data essential to the adjuster ministry of the realms of their sojourn. Though on occasions they have been known to function in interplanetary matters during times of crisis.
Okay, so their range is very wide.
I lost you on that one.
Well, they can, Billy, they can communicate with each other not only just on this local planet, but throughout the universe. And normally they just deal with the local stuff that's going on, but in an emergency they can deal with things that's going on throughout the universe, really. Because being adjusters, they can move at will, their own will, anyway. All right. Supreme and self-acting adjusters can leave the human body at will. The indwellers are not an organic or biologic part of the mortal life. They are divine superimpositions thereon. In the original life plans, they were provided for, but they are not indispensable to material existence. Nevertheless, it should be recorded that they very rarely, even temporarily, leave their mortal tabernacles after they once take up their indwelling. In other words, they don't normally move around after they've taken up space within the human being. All right? Millie, did you take the next one?
Yes. The superacting adjusters are those who have achieved the conquest of their entrusted task and only await the dissolution of the material life vehicle or the translation of the mortal soul.
So basically, these adjusters, the self-acting or the superacting adjusters, are those that have accomplished the task they are set out to do with the human being. And all they're doing is waiting for the death of the person so they can take them to the mansion, they can meet them on the mansion worlds, and they look forward to the time of fusion with them. In other words, as far as they're concerned, their job is complete in the fact that they have accomplished what they've set out to do. And
Their job is what?
they've accomplished what they've set out to do.
And they leave them.
And well, no, they stay with the person, but the only reason they're staying is waiting for the death of the individual so that they can go ahead with the next step, which is the Urantia existence, or the fusion.
What about fusion?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the next step, the Urantia existence and fusion. Urantia existence and fusion. So what they're doing is they're waiting till the time of fusion. Now we know if they've accomplished what they've set out to do, these individuals that they're waiting for more than likely are very close to fusion already, right? And we know that fusion can happen on this planet, but we don't know for sure what it is that kicks us over that little level that gets us to the point of fusion, right? So many of them are just waiting.
if the adjuster fuses, then there's no more adjuster to go back and start over again, with another being.
That's right. That's correct. Once the adjuster fuses with a mortal, then he's forever fused with that individual, and you become the adjuster, and the adjuster becomes you, right?
So why do you get secondary adjusters?
Because
If
those-
you're the original adjuster, you'll get a second-hand adjuster.
Yeah, but those adjusters took up resident in beings that either could not fuse or refuse survival, one of the two. Okay? So those are the ones that become advanced adjusters. And interesting enough, Millie, is all adjusters on this planet are advanced adjusters. We don't have any virgin adjusters on this planet. They all are advanced adjusters. So all the adjusters that come to indwell mortals on this planet, because of the type of beings we are all advanced adjusters. They're none of them.
They were attached to a mortal at one time, but when the mortal passed over, the mortal rejected the adjuster, so the adjuster went back to the beginning, went back to start over.
Went back to Divinington, yeah, to be trained to go on to the next step. And those are all advanced adjusters.
All of the adjusters then that we have here have been rejected at one time or another.
Well, no, not rejected, Millie. Sometimes that's not a proper term, really, because they're mortals that they were assigned to either rejected survival. They didn't reject the adjuster, they rejected survival, or they were incapable of fusing with those adjusters. So many of those beings will become sun fused or spirit fused beings because they are not intellectually capable of fusing with the adjuster. And all those advanced adjusters that have done this become available to come to this planet for us to be fused with. So when we get to the mansion worlds and we fuse with our adjuster, that adjuster is going to have memories from a previous existence on a lower type of being that we will benefit from that experience, each one of us. So, kind of
Hey,
interesting.
Rodney. Rodney, your speaker's turned off.
Yeah, hey guys.
Hey.
Rodney.
Okay, so who's up next? Who else gonna
Thank you for that explanation, Rodney.
play this? Sure. All right, let's go on. Rodney, would you like to take this one for me?
Sure, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we
I
should.
can hear you, thanks.
Okay, and then Roger, I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Rodney.
You said that all adjusters on our planet, none of them are virgin.
That's correct. That's correct.
I still don't remember reading that, but
You're going to see it in this paper tonight. It's in this paper tonight.
okay, cool.
Okay?
That's it.
Yeah.
They're all experienced.
Yeah.
Okay, but not experienced on this planet.
Not experienced on this planet. There's not a single adjuster on this planet that has been here before. None of them.
I remember.
Yeah.
All right, number 3, relation of adjusters to mortal times. The character of the detailed work of mystery monitors varies in accordance with the nature of their assignments as to whether or not they are liaison or fusion adjusters. Some adjusters are merely known for the temporal lifetimes of their subjects. Others are bestowed as personality candidates with permission for everlasting fusion if their subjects survive. There is also a slight variation in their work among different planetary types, as well as in different systems and universes. But, on the whole, their labors are remarkably uniform, more so than are the duties of any of the created orders of celestial beings.
Okay, what do you think a liaison type adjuster is rather than a fusion adjuster? An example, a liaison type of adjuster would be one that Melchizedek had, right? Because that adjuster, when he came to indwell Melchizedek during his bestowal, knew that he would never fuse with Melchizedek because he was not available for fusion. Melchizedek was already a local universe son of God, right? Or the same adjuster who indwelled Jesus, right? That would be considered a liaison type of adjuster rather than a fusion type adjuster, because there is no way that a adjuster would fuse with a creator son, would he? Because a creator son's already deity, right? So, but he gains the experience of going along with the life of that being until he dies, and most of these liaison type adjusters are granted personality status after their work as liaison type adjusters. Like ours did, who is the chief of the adjusters on this planet, he was given a personality to stay on this planet, and he's the chief of all the planets. So he started out a liaison adjuster and moved on to become a personalized adjuster, right? And that's important because if they're fusion adjusters, they're looking forward to fusion with that individual. Where Melchizedek and Jesus, that adjuster was not expecting to fuse with Jesus or Melchizedek even one. Right?
Roger,
Yeah.
I know I've heard this before. I can't remember. But when we fuse with our adjuster, the adjuster goes out of personality. What do we get?
You gain deity. You gain the experience of deity. The pre-existence and the post-existence of deity. The other thing you gain is you start to gain the memories of the adjuster before you even existed, right? In his previous indwellings. I wonder what that is.
I understand.
You know, so they gain the experience of human personality experience, and we gain deity experience, right? God coming down to us and us going up to God. That's where that Son of God and the Son of Man comes in, right? All right. Okay, I'm totally lost who's up next. I'll take the next one and then we'll just go through and get everybody back in order here. On Primitive Worlds, the Series 1 group, the adjuster indwells the mind of the creature as an experiential training, chiefly for self-culture and progressive development. Version adjusters are usually sent to such worlds during the earlier times when primitive men are arriving in the Valley of Decision, but when comparatively few will elect to ascend the mortal heights beyond the hills of self-mastery and character acquirement to attain the higher levels of emerging spirituality. Many, however, who fail to adjuster fusion do survive as spirit fuse ascenders. The adjusters receive valuable training and acquire wonderful experience in transient association with primitive minds, and they are able subsequently to utilize this experience for the benefit of superior beings on other worlds like ours. Nothing of survival value is ever lost in all the wide universe. So, this tells us that the version adjusters are sent to worlds where human beings are starting to develop and just beginning to develop concepts of God or deity or self-mastery and that sort of thing. It takes hundreds of thousands of years for animal-like beings, which are called humans, to develop to the point where they start to develop spiritual thinking or spirituality. And that's the type of beings that these adjusters inhabit until we get to the point where more and more beings start to become more and more spiritual. And this process takes hundreds of thousands of years. And we're talking about this same process on this planet, but the adjusters that were sent to this planet as version adjusters are not sent back to indwell the same types of beings. Okay? So those version adjusters never come back to the planet to inhabit another person on this planet. They go to another world. Alright? Millie, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. On another type of world, the Series 2 group, the adjusters are merely loaned to mortal beings. Here, the monitors can never attain fusion personality through such indwelling, but they do afford great help to their human subjects during their lifetime, far more than they are able to give to Urantia mortals. The adjusters are here loaned to the mortal creatures for a single lifespan as patterns for their higher spiritual attainment, temporary helpers in the intriguing task of perfecting a survival character. The adjusters do not return after natural death. These surviving mortals attain eternal life through spirit fusion.
There it is. So these early beings usually become spirit fused instead of father fused, right? Right. Stephen, would you take the next one?
On worlds such as Urantia, the Series 3 group, there is a real role with the divine gifts of life and death engagement. If you survive, there is to be an eternal union, an everlasting fusion, the making of man and adjuster one being.
Okay, we're considered a Series 3 group world. We're two-brained beings, okay? There's a one-brained being, a two-brained being, and there's also a three-brained being in other worlds that are even more spiritual than we are. But we're the two-brained beings, which is the Series 3 group, all right? And so we can fuse with our adjusters because of this, our intelligence and our heredity. Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
In the three-brain models of this series of worlds, the adjusters are able to gain far more actual contact with their subjects during the temporal life than in the one and two-brain types. But in the career after death, three-brain type proceed just as do one-brain type and two-brain peoples. Urantia.
Okay, so that tells us that we're on that two-brain series, or Series 3. Alright? Alright, Diane.
Roger,
Yeah,
that because we're able to contact the three-brain more,
yes.
we probably, because we may got another part of a brain we don't, they're much more intelligent.
Yeah, more than likely that's the case, Rodney. Plus the fact they may have the ability to communicate without sound. They may have other brain functions that we don't even comprehend at this point. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the two-brain worlds subsequent to the sojourn of the paradise of the Son, virgin adjusters are seldom assigned to persons who have unquestioned capacity for survival. It is our belief that on such worlds, practically all adjusters indwelling intelligent men and women of survival capacity belong to the advanced or to the supreme type.
There it is. So all the adjusters on our world are the advanced or supreme type of adjusters. Okay. In many of the early evolutionary races of Urantia, three groups of beings existed. There were those who were so animalistic that they were utterly lacking in adjuster capacity. This is talking about our world, right? There were those who exhibited undoubted capacity for adjusters and promptly received them when the age of moral responsibility was attained. Then there was a third class who occupied a borderline position. They had capacity for adjusted reception, but the monitors could only indwell the mind on the personal petition of the individual. So the individuals actually had to ask for the adjuster or help from the father, right? And so that's,
Oh, Roger,
yeah,
that was before Paradise Son Payment, right?
that's correct. That's before Jesus came down and did his restore, or even before Melchizedek, right? So in our early world, we had three different types of beings. We had very animalistic beings who had no qualms about no morals, killing, molesting, whatever. They were just animals, right? Like many people act today, I think. And then there was another group that was a little more spiritual, right? And those were ripe for adjusters to come and indwell them. And then there was another group that was capable of receiving adjusters, but they had to ask for it. It was probably during the interim before Pentecost, okay? Then after Pentecost, all human beings, because of the Spirit of truth, prepared all human beings for the indwelling of the superior or supreme adjusters, right? So after the day of Pentecost, all children after the age of about 5 and 10 months or so were started receiving adjusters, right? And that's the progression of our planet. It's just normal progression for the planet. And that's what happened here. Okay. Really, I think you're right.
Yes. You gonna change the page?
She's getting it.
But with those beings who are virtually disqualified for survival by disinheritance through the agency of their unfit and inferior ancestors, many a virgin adjuster has served a valuable preliminary experience in contacting evolutionary mind, and thus has become better qualified for a subsequent assignment to a higher type of mind on some other world.
So, and these beings that couldn't qualify for adjuster weren't intelligent enough for adjuster. They went on to the next world and became adjusters for more intelligent beings. Okay. Stephen, would you take the next one?
Okay, 4. Adjusters and human personality. The higher forms of intelligent communication between human beings are greatly helped by the indwelling adjusters. Animals do have fellow feelings, but they do not communicate concepts to each other. And express emotion, ideas, and ideas. Due to men of animal origin experience high intellectual intercourse or spiritual communion with their fellows until truth adjusters have been bestowed. All of that, when such evolutionary creatures develop speech, they are on the highway to receive adjustment.
Okay, so what's the importance of this paragraph is this. Early men, before they started developing speech and that sort of thing, were much like the animals. They could communicate feelings towards each other, hate, love, and that sort of thing. But they could not communicate ideas or ideals or spiritual concepts, right? And so it was hard for them to intercommunicate spiritual communion because they didn't have a concept for that. And so it was not till after the thought adjusters started to become bestowed regularly that human beings got to the point where they were coming above an animal level, if you think of it that way. So if you think about the animals show attachment to each other, they hang out together, they love each other, they'll protect each other and all those sort of things, but they don't have a spiritual base. To have that spiritual base, it requires the thought adjuster. So that's what they're talking about here. So the early men, many of them were just like the animals. They weren't that different than the animals that inhabit the planet. All right. Rodney, Take the next one.
Animals do, in a crude way, communicate well with each other, but there is little or no personality in such primitive contact. Adjusters are not personality. They are pre-personal beings. But they do hail from the source of personality. Their presence does augment the qualitative manifestations of human personality. Especially is this true if the adjuster has had previous experience.
Okay, this is real important. The adjuster is pretty personal. It is the human being that gives the personality. What does the adjuster give? The adjuster gives the divinity, the God to man. The personality comes from man to God. But it's God the Father who instills in the individual the personality that is returned to where? The thought adjuster, right? So the thought adjuster is pre-personal. After fusion, the thought adjuster and the new being, the new human, us and them, become personality intertwined, right?
Roger, I've got another question.
Yeah.
Are thought adjusters intelligent?
Of course, yeah. They're more intelligent than we are.
I mean, they use the cosmic mind and
They have they have mind, but they have God the Father's mind. They are the mind of God, right?
Yeah, of course. Never mind.
Yeah. That's why, if we say we want to do the will of God, we want to do the will of the mind of God, right? Divinity, right?
Yes.
They have free will just like we do too, Rodney. They choose to come to indwell us, and they choose to stay with us, and they choose to what? Fuse with us permanently, right? It's that part of God giving Himself to man, right? All right. Rodney, would you read the next one? I think you're right.
You want me to read this too?
Oh, you just read? I'm sorry. It's Diane.
The type of adjuster has much to do with the potential for expression of the human personality. On down through the ages, many of the great intellectual and spiritual leaders in Urantia have exerted their influence chiefly because of the superiority of previous experience of the indwelling adjusters.
So many of our spiritual leaders have been have had advanced adjusters, and that is why they're capable of doing these sort of things, right? All right. The indwelling adjusters have in no small measure cooperated with other spiritual influence in transforming and humanizing the descendants of the primitive men of olden ages. If the adjusters indwelling the minds of the inhabitants of Urantia were to be withdrawn, the world would slowly return to many of the scenes and practices of the men of primitive times. The divine monitors are one of the real potentials of advancing civilization. So if it wasn't for the thought adjusters, we would start running around killing and maiming and looting and all sorts, probably start eating each other again, all those sort of things, because we'd have no spiritual pilot life, right? And that's why the adjusters are so, so important. All right. I have observed a thought adjuster indwelling a mind on Urantia who has, according to the records of Uversa, indwelt 15 minds previously in Urantia. So this adjuster has indwelled 15 previous beings. We do not know whether this monitor has had similar experiences in other super universes, but I suspect so. This is a marvelous adjuster and one of the most useful and potent forces on Urantia during this present age. What others have lost in that they refuse to survive, this human being and your whole world now gains. From him who has not survival qualities shall be taken away, even that experienced adjuster which he now has, while to him who has survival prospects shall be given even the pre-existent adjuster of a slothful deserter.
Pre-experienced.
Huh?
It's pre-experienced.
Pre-experienced adjuster of a slothful deserter. You remember the quote in the New Testament when Jesus says, those who have will be taken away, and those who have not will be given? This is what he's talking about. Okay? If you do not follow the lead of your adjuster and do the will of God, that which you have been benefited with shall be taken away because you refuse to survive it, and will be given to someone else who will take that advantage of that and survive. Okay? Yeah,
Thanks for that parallel. That's good.
sure. Really, would you take the next one? Huh? Did I? Oh.
Yes. In a sense, the adjusters may be fostering a certain degree of planetary cross-fertilization in the domains of truth, beauty, and goodness, but they are seldom given two indwelling experiences on the same planet. There is no adjuster now serving on Urantia who has been on this world previously. I know whereof I speak, since we have their numbers and records in the archives of Universal.
So there's adjusters that are virgin on this planet that served here before, right?
So Roger,
Yeah.
I did ask a few meetings back if the adjusters don't have names, but apparently they're numbered.
They're numbered, they're not named. They don't,
So they do have a number.
yeah, they do have a number, but they're not named until when, Rodney?
And until we fuse with it.
That's right, that's when they're given a name.
And
Right.
then that's when we gain our real name.
That becomes our real name, that's right. That's when we become real sons of God also, right? Instead of faith sons of God. All right. Stephen, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. Material handicaps to adjuster indwelling. Supreme and self-acting adjusters are often able to contribute factors of spiritual import to the human mind when it flows freely in liberated but controlled channels of creative imagination. At such times, and sometimes during sleep, the adjuster is able to arrest the mental currents, to stay the flow, and then to divert the idea procession, and all this is done in order to effect deep spiritual transformations in the higher recesses of the superconsciousness. Thus are the forces and energy of mind more fully adjusted to the key of the contractual tones of the spiritual level of the present and the future.
Okay, so when we basically meditate or pray or during the night when we're asleep, sometimes our mental currents are literally eased down so that the adjuster can teach us things, right? And that's what's so very important, is to get to the super conscious so that we can learn from the adjuster itself. Not the subconscious, but the super conscious.
Sounds like he tunes our antenna in.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good example, Rodney. Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one?
Okay, it is sometimes possible to have the mind illuminated, to hear the divine voice that continually speaks within you, so that you may become partially conscious of the wisdom, truth, goodness, and beauty of the potential personality constantly indwelling.
So you can actually hear that voice of God within your mind. The tricky part is knowing when it's God and when it's your own subconscious, right?
are you aware we have another person that has joined us?
No, I can't see the monitor from up here, only Diane, so.
I believe it's Alicia.
Welcome, Alicia. Can you hear us all right? She got a,
Oh, hey, Lisa, you're muted. We can't hear you, Lisa.
Yeah, this is my first time on and I'm learning Zoom, so hi there.
well, welcome, Alicia.
Hi.
Yeah, hey, Lisa.
Well, we're glad you joined us.
Thank you.
Let us kind of give you the how we work here. If you'd like to read with us, you're welcome to read. We each read just one paragraph. You don't have to read if you're not comfortable with reading. You can just join us and stay with us. That's fine too. But if you'd like to read, you're welcome to also. Okay, we just go around in a circle. So we're on section 5, paragraph 3 right now. So that'll give you a minute to catch up, and we'll see if you want to read after Diane.
Well, he's got a book, where would that be?
That would be, if you have close to the original book, it's page 1199.4, paragraph 4. Or if you have a newer book, your Versa book, something like that, it would be paper 109, section 5, paragraph 3. So, okay, so who was up? I think, was Rodney up? I think Rodney's up. Rodney?
Okay. The challenge studying rapidly shifting mental attitudes often result in thwarting the plans and interrupting the work of the adjusters. Their work is not only interfered with by the innate natures of the mortal races, but this ministry is also greatly retarded by your own preconceived opinions, settled ideas, and long-standing prejudices. Because of these handicaps, many times only their unfinished creations emerge into consciousness, and confusion of concepts is inevitable. Therefore, in scrutinizing mental situations, safety lies only in the prompt recognition of each and every thought and experience for just what it actually and fundamentally is, disregarding time what it might have been.
Okay, so our own prejudices and our own opinions or ideas get in the way many times of the message that the adjuster is trying to reveal to us, right? And that happens to all of us. I don't care how perfect we all think we are or whatever. We all have still ingrained of us some prejudices against things and beings and places and races and all sorts of things that are innately there from, many of them, from our family history, right? And so it's hard for the adjuster to overcome these things. It's all already there. But if we keep ourselves open to the suggestions of the will of God or for the adjuster, then these things can be cleared up also. But that's what they're talking about here, is these things that's hard to overcome. And it's with all of us, regardless of what level you're at. All right? Diane?
That would be the spiritual warfare that Paul talked about.
That's right, it is. It's that warfare between human personality or our own innately evil tendencies and that which is good, or that which is of God, right? And that's that warfare that goes on constantly with all of us, all the time, right? And it really is a warfare, and throughout our entire life. It's not till we get to the mansion worlds and we start to develop the Urantia moda that we're going to get over some of that animalistic warfare, right? All right. Diane, can you take the next one?
The great problem of life is the adjustment of the ancestral tendencies of living to the demands of the spiritual urges initiated by the divine presence of the mystery monitor. While in the universe, the super-universe careers, no man can serve two masters. In the life you now live on Urantia, every man must so many falter and fail, grow weary and succumb to the stress of the evolutionary struggle.
So we have to deal with that evolutionary struggle of our what we think is we should do and what we actually should do constantly, right? And it's that serving of two masters. We want to serve God, and yet we want to serve our own evolutionary tendencies constantly and all the time, right? Makes it difficult. Makes it hard for us to function, for sure. Is it Alicia? Alicia, would you like to take the next one? What did she say?
She said Alicia left.
Yeah, Alicia, she had to go on to another conference call, so she left.
Oh, okay. Who are we talking to?
This is Janelle. I'm her sister.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, welcome, Janelle. Would you like to read, or you don't have to, but you're welcome to.
Sure.
Okay.
While the hereditary legacy of cerebral endowment and the electrochemical overcontrol both operate to delimit the sphere of efficient adjuster activity, no hereditary handicap in normal minds ever prevents eventual spiritual achievement. Hereditary may interfere with the rate of personality conquest, but it does not prevent eventual consummation of the ascendant adventure. If you will cooperate with your adjuster, the divine gift will, sooner or later, evolve the immortal Urantia soul, and subsequent to fusion therewith, will present the new creature to the sovereign master, son of the local universe, and eventually to the father of adjusters on paradise.
That's that standing before Christ, Michael, right? That's what we're talking about when we get to that point after fusion. And we stand before Christ, Michael, and we hope to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant, right? Okay, but the first part of this paragraph, boy, if we could learn how to control the first part of this paragraph, we'd have it licked. And that is the electrochemical overcontrol. Okay, what are they talking about there? They're talking about the physical mind and the way our human synapses works, the way our brain works. And this handicap of the human brain is something that we inherit from our parents' parents, and it's a heredity thing, okay? And for us to overcome that electrochemical overcontrol and give in to the adjuster is the most difficult thing we have to deal with in this life. Because we like what? We like being in control, don't we? We like being the head kahuna of the boat, right? Instead of giving in to God and giving in to the will of God, and trying to follow the will of God, we want to always take back control, don't we? And that's part of our heredity and our electrochemical overcontrol, right? So we're always serving two masters constantly, right? But eventually the adjuster will win out if we keep going that direction. And eventually we will stand before the sovereign of the master universe, right? And who is that? Sovereign son. That is Michael, right? We'll stand before Michael. And we'll also eventually stand where? Right in front of the first source and center, or the universal Father on paradise. So that's our goal. And we know we can make it.
Gives me chills.
It does, kind of, doesn't it? To know that's our goal if we just give in, right? And what was her name again? What was your name again? Janelle? Welcome, Janelle, if we didn't get that in there. You know, I get talking, I forget things. So. Nice to have you with us, too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I live in Arkansas.
Do you? Okay, so you're a little bit far away then.
Yeah, I have a study group on Sunday, but I thought I would just join another one here.
Oh, well, you're welcome anytime. We're here every Wednesday night, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. I'm up next. Since I've been talking so much, I'm going to pass it on to Millie. Millie, would you take the next one? Millie's still out there?
May I read you something from my calendar first?
Yes, please do.
You should know that no one can hold the mind by himself if not held by the Spirit. For it cannot be held, not because of its immobile nature, but through neglect. It has acquired the habit of turning and wandering hither and thither.
Boy, that's
We
appropriate.
must practice keeping in mind
That's
the,
right.
the persistence of true values. Adjusters never fail. Nothing worth surviving is ever lost. Every meaningful value in every world creature is certain of survival, irrespective of the survival or non-survival of the meaning discovering or evaluating personality. And so it is, a mortal creature may reject survival. Still, the life experience is not wasted. The eternal adjuster carries the worthwhile features of such an apparent life, a failure, over into some other world, and there bestows these surviving meanings and values upon some other higher type of moral mind, one of survival capacity. No worthwhile experience ever happens in vain. No true meaning or real value ever perishes. Oh gosh. Tell me that.
So that's reassuring just in itself to think that the adjuster never fails. No matter what it does, it never fails, right? So when our life seems so overwhelming with menial things that's going on with our life that we think is so important, you know, we have to remember that there is a plan. Even in all the chaos and things that seems to upset us every day, there is a plan for us to survive, and there is a way for us to go on, right? And that's reassuring, if nothing else, just in itself, right?
Well, when you think about how far we've made it so far, you know someone's out there watching out for us.
Has to be, doesn't it?
They're helping, they're a cheering section.
That's right. Not only the adjuster, but think of your guardian angels too. 2 seraphim, a cherubim, and a seraphim, watching over you all the time, you know?
That's right.
So, you know, all we have to do is ride the waves and we'll get there sooner or later, right? All right. Stephen, would you take the next one, please, sir?
Okay. As related to fusion candidates, if a mystery monitor is deserted by a mortal associate, if the human partner declines to pursue the ascending career, when released by natural death or prior thereto, the adjuster carries away everything of survival value which is evolved in the mind of that non-surviving creature. If an adjuster should repeatedly fail to attain fusion personality because of the non-survival of successive human subjects, and if this monitor should subsequently be personalized, all the acquired experience of having indwelt and mastered all these mortal minds would become the actual possession of such a newly personalized adjuster, an endowment to be enjoyed and utilized throughout all future ages. A personalized adjuster of this order is a composite assembly of all the survival traits of the former creature hosts.
So if an adjuster experiences life with multiple beings over a period of time and he does not get one that is of survival value, then eventually he will become personalized by God the Father himself, right? So these personalized adjusters are individuals just like we are individuals, but they're the composite of all these different beings that they've indwelt, right? So it's an experience composite of all these beings for all of us to enjoy way into the eternal future, right? So there's always a plan. Nothing is lost in the universe, right? All right. Rodney, would you take the next one?
When adjusters of long universe experience volunteer to indwell divine sons and bestow missions, they full well know that personality attainment can never be achieved with fervence, but often does the Father of spirits grant personality to these volunteers and establish them as directors of their kind. These are the personalities honored with authority on divinity, and their unique natures embody the mosaic humanity of their multiple experiences of moral indwelling, and also the spirit transcript of the human divinity of the paradise, the sole son of the terminal indwelling spirit.
Okay, so think about this. These volunteers that indwell beings, and they know that there's no possibility of fusion with these beings, they become basically leaders of their type of being, the adjusters themselves on divinity. And so when the virgin adjusters come back from their experience of indwelling someone that they know can't survive, then they have the benefit of these personalized adjusters on Divinington to train them their experience. So when they get ready to go out to another planet, which they indwell another sort of being that can be fused, they have experience of not only their previous experience as a virgin adjuster, but what they've learned from these personalized adjusters when they get back to Divinington. And then they come back to us, or other types of humans, to be indwelled. All right. Diane.
The activities of adjusters in your local universe are directed by the personalized adjuster of Michael Nevedon. That very monitor guided him step by step when he lived his human life in the flesh of Joshua and Joseph. Faithful to his trust was this extraordinary adjuster, and wisely did this valiant monitor direct the human nature, even guiding the immortal mind of the paradise son in the choosing of the path of the polished perfect will. This adjuster had previously served with Melchizedek in the days of Abraham, and had engaged in tremendous exploits, both previous to his indwelling and between these historical experiences.
So not only did he experience Michael, but he experienced Melchizedek. So he had Melchizedek's experience of trying to bring keep the concept of God the Father alive before Jesus got here, right? So he was a good aid to Jesus as he was going through his bestowal experience, right? And eventually became a personalized adjuster who's the chief of his kind on our planet right now. He's the chief of the adjusters, right? Joel?
This adjuster did indeed triumph in Jesus' human mind, that mind which in each of life's recurring situations maintained a consecrated dedication to the Father's will, saying, "Not my will, but yours be done." Such decisive consecration constitutes the true passport from the limitations of human nature to the finality of divine attainment.
What a statement there. Not my will, but yours be done. That simple statement is the key to eternity, if you think about it, right? That statement opens yourself up to the divine will of God the Father. And if you have the divine will of God the Father in everything you do, then you're on the perfect pathway to attainment for eternity, correct? And that's what Jesus tried to teach us. He did a very good job of it, in the Jesus papers. It just is excellent the way he does it, too. This same adjuster now reflects the inscrutable nature of his mighty personality, the pre-baptismal humanity of Joshua ben Joseph, the eternal and living transcript of the eternal and living values of the greatest of all Urantians created out of the humble circumstances of a commonplace life as it was lived to the complete exhaustion of the spiritual values attainable in mortal experience. And that's why he's our example forever for all these ages and all those to come and ages to come, right? Millie, did you take the next one?
Everything of permanent value which is entrusted to an adjuster is assured eternal survival. In certain instances, the monitor holds these possessions for bestowal on a mortal mind of future indwelling. In others, and upon personalization, these surviving and conserved realities are held in trust for future utilization in the service of the architects of the master universe.
Did y'all catch that? Nothing is lost. So if these things that are entrusted to the adjuster is not used immediately, they're used in the future by the architects of the master universe. Remember who the architects of the master universe are? Those are those beings which go out in the outer space levels and design the super universes, the outer space levels for the future. So nothing is lost. These values are retained for those universes to come, which we will be a part of. Right?
Yeah, they tell us over and over and over throughout this book that everything of value is retained.
That's
That
right.
nothing is lost.
Nothing is lost. Yeah. Yeah. That's just beyond comprehension.
Nothing is lost, but the people, the individuals that don't survive are lost.
Yeah. Well, their experience is not though. Dear.
No, their experience is not, but
Yeah.
that individual personality.
That personality is gone,
is
but
gone.
yeah, but their experiences lives on, and the adjuster goes on either to someone else or as a personalized adjuster. But that what makes them who they are, that's gone, right?
Right.
The individual part of them is gone. It goes
Just
on.
the good stuff lives on.
Just
All
the good stuff.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, the rest, and they said it best in the book, in one place where it says, the scaffolding of life just passes away. It just falls away because it's no longer useful for anything. It's only the permanent stuff that survives. Those things of value, right? Stephen, I think you're up again.
Okay. 7. Destiny of personalized adjuster. We cannot state whether or not non-adjuster father fragments are personalizable, but you have been informed that personality is the sovereign free will bestowal of the universal Father. As far as we know, the adjuster type of father fragment attains personality only by the acquirement of personal attributes through service ministry to a personal being. These personalized adjusters are at home on Divinington, where they instruct and direct their pre-personal associates.
So they gain the experience from previous beings, right? And then they're eventually personalized. But normally an adjuster gets its personality from a being, right? By fusing with them. And if that's not possible, if they go through multiple bestowals and they never reach a bestowal personality, then the Father himself gives them personality, just like he gives us personality, right? The human being, the personality that's in a human being comes directly from the Father. It's that personality which survives with the adjuster. So that personality goes into the fusion with the adjuster. So the personality still comes from the same source, right? All right. Rodney, take the next one.
Personalized thought adjusters are the untrammeled, unassigned, and sovereign stabilizers and compensators of the far-flung universe of universes. They combine the creator and creature experience, essential
Existential.
and existential and experiential. They are conjoint time and eternity beings. They associate the pre-personal and the personal in universe administration.
Okay. So basically, they're the creator and creature experience. How are they the creator and creature experience? The creator being what? God the Father, right? And the creature being us, right? God the Father gives us what? The existential. Always has been, always will be. That's the deity part. The creature gives us the experiential. We give the experience of our life. Our experience not only goes back to God the Father and the fusion of the thought adjustment, but where else does our experience go? Into God the Supreme, right? So our experience is added to God the Supreme, but it's also the experience for the thought adjuster at fusion, okay? So it gives us a pre-personal, which is God the Father, and a personal, which is us, right? And helps us in the universe administration in the future. Okay.
So the adjuster's the middleman.
The adjuster's the middleman, yeah, in essence, right? It's the existential and we're the personal, right? All right.
Personalized adjusters are the all-wise and powerful executives of the architects of the master universe. They are the personal agents of the full ministry of the universal Father. Personal, pre-personal, and super-personal. They are the personal ministers of the extraordinary, the unusual, and the unexpected throughout all the realms of the transcendental, absolute spheres of the domain of God the ultimate, even to the levels of God the absolute.
And what are we talking about? We're talking about the future universes, right? The architects of the master universe, God the ultimate, God the absolute. And that's the functioning of the outer space levels, right? That which is to come in the future, right? All right. Huh? Okay. You good? All right. Joel? Would you like to take the next one? Did she go now? She's still there?
Did she leave us?
I'm sorry, I thought I had unmuted it and I was reading.
Oh, we do that a lot around here.
It's okay, I forget to unmute it all the time.
They are the exclusive beings of the universes who embrace within their being all the known relationships of personality. They are omnipersonal. They are before personality. They are personality and they are after personality. They minister the personality of the universal Father as in the eternal past, the eternal present, and the eternal future.
Okay, y'all want me to go through these things so that you understand each one? Okay, before personality, well, that was the adjuster before us, before they fuse with us, right? That's before personality. They are personality, that's when they fuse with us, right? Or they're made personal, right? And then they're after personality. What is that? That is what they become in the future, right? And that is why it says in the next sentence, they are the eternal past, pre-personality, they're eternal present, the fusion of the adjuster right now, and the eternal future, that which is to come in the ages to come in the outer space levels. So basically they encompass all these things, right? Which is pretty much everything.
I get real nervous when you talk about the outer space levels.
It's so far in the future.
I know it's,
That is so far in advance.
Yeah, it is.
It's so far out there.
it is. That's why I have such fun teaching the forward, right? All right. Let's keep going. Existential personality on the order of the infinite and absolute. The Father bestowed upon the eternal Son. But he chose to reserve for his own ministry the experiential personality of the type of the personalized adjuster bestowed upon the existential pre-personal adjuster. And they are thus both destined to the future eternal super personality of the transcendental ministry of the absonite realms of the ultimate. That's in the future. The supreme ultimate, and even to the levels of the ultimate absolute. And that's out into the outer space levels again, right? That's Millie's favorite subject, right? All right, Millie, would you take the next one?
Seldom are the personalized adjusters seen at large in universes. Occasionally they consult with the ancients of days, and sometimes the personalized adjusters of the sevenfold creator sons come to the headquarters worlds of the constellations to confer with the Urantia rulers.
And why would they do that? It's the Urantia rulers that are the administration for the creator sons. So if they want to get a good concept of how the creator son is thinking about something, what better way than to ask the personalized of the creator sons, right? So that works out great, right? All right. Stephen, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. The planetary Veronica, observer of Urantia, the Most High custodian, who not long since assumed emergency regency of your board, asserting in authority in the presence of the resident governor general, he began his emergency administration of Urantia with a full staff of his own choosing. He assigned all his associates and assistants their planetary duties, but he did not choose 3 personalized adjusters who appeared in his presence the instant he fulfilled the region. Not even though they would thus appear, for they did not so manifest their divine presence at the time of the previous regency. The Most High Regent did not assign service or designate duties for these volunteers. Personalized adjustment. Nevertheless, these 3 omnipersonal beings were among the most active of the numerous orders of celestial beings then serving on Urantia.
So when the regents took over the planet after the rebellion, right, the Most High Custodian, who was Veronda, basically, had appear before him 3 personalized adjusters. He didn't even know they were coming, right? And he didn't assign them duties because he felt like they were above him in the first place. So they basically chose their own duties and been invaluable to the universe for our planet since then. So they just showed up they showed up to help out, right? All right. Part of the administration of the planet. See, we're being taken care of, believe it or not. Rodney, last but not least, would you take the last one, please, sir?
Sure. Personalized adjusters perform a wide range of services for numerous orders of universe personalities, but we are not permitted to discuss these ministries with adjusters of great evolutionary creatures. These extraordinary human divinities are among the most remarkable personalities of the entire grand universe, and no one dares to predict what their future missions may be. And this paper was prepared by a solitary messenger of Reverend.
Okay, so if they don't know what their future duties, we sure don't, right? All right, let's have a little closing prayer, and we'll close for tonight. Millie, would you like to close us tonight?
Yes, I can do that. Heavenly Father, we come again on this evening to study this remarkable book you have sent to us. We thank you especially for this chapter, so that we may try and understand our thought adjusters, that we may be comfortable with them and not give them such a hard time. Help us to always listen for their messages, follow their leanings. Help us to understand this particular paper so that we do not err in our daily lives. Help us help us to express this message to our friends and neighbors. Help us to explain to other people that we're not alone and that someone is helping you and just pay attention. We're grateful. We're extremely grateful. We're grateful for these favors. We're grateful for Roger. And we're grateful for Christ Michael of Notre Dame. Amen.
Amen. And thank you for joining us from home. Our next time we're going to read paper 110, The Relation of Adjusters to Individual World. We're getting close to the end of the adjuster papers. So we'll take that on next time. Don't anybody go anywhere. I've got a couple things I'd like to say too. Thank you for joining us at home. Please come see us again.